Best.Podcast.Ever is sponsored by the Gertzberg Law Firm, a full-service business law firm in Cleveland and Chagrin Falls that's changing the way businesses retain their attorneys. Go to gertzberglaw.com to learn more. While you're there, check out Cover My Six, a complete legal audit of the 6 areas that most often create or prevent business lawsuits and government investigations. Go to covermysix.com to learn how we keep you safe. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to listen to the best podcast ever recorded.
Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. Hey folks, Alex Gertzberg here. Doing things a little bit differently today. An experiment, if you will. So Molly's not here today, and the reason she's not here today is that she became a grandmother just yesterday, I think it was, might have been Saturday. If you're one of the billion people that Molly's connected to on Facebook, you already know, and she's just the happiest that I've ever seen her, and I've seen her pretty happy. And I've known her for a while now, and she is just ecstatic. And so, needless to say, she wouldn't be here today because she's squeezing her new grandkids. So her daughter Sam gave birth to John and Mary over the weekend, and I guess I'm a little bit disappointed, Sam. I mean, I'm happy for you and all, but come on. I mean, I picked my bracket was March 15th. You know, I went with the Ides of March. I thought that was a pretty reasonable pick, given what the doctors were saying. And you went a whole month early, which, well, whatever. I mean, it's congratulations. Yeah. So anyway, so Molly's not here, and it's just me. And I was thinking that it would be interesting to see if I could pull off one of these podcasts entirely on my own. I have no idea if I'll be able to. I think I'll be able to. I think if nothing else, I'll listen to it. And maybe my mom and probably Nellie, my sister, and our intrepid producer. Well, Nellie has to listen to it because she has to edit this. Molly might listen to it in between squeezing her grandkids. So here's what I was thinking I would do. I have this one thing that I do on a regular basis that is a cross section of my business life and my personal life. And I thought I'd share it with you guys because when I think about well, here, let's back up, right? So, you know, there's a lightning round in our podcasts, and the lightning round questions usually last, I don't know, like 4.5 hours. And we ask among the lightning round questions, this one question, which is, what is the habit or routine that you do on a regular basis that gives you the most mileage? And, you know, our guests will say things like pray or be grateful or meditate, which are all really good answers. And I do one of those. No, I do 2 of those. Mine are meditation and gratitude. And I try to do those 2. I don't pray, but well, anyway, so, but there's one thing that I do every single day, and I can't think of anything that I do right now that has helped me more than this one thing. I'm stretching this out a little bit so that you guys can fill in as many sophomoric and dirty jokes as you can in this time span. Molly, I'm thinking of you in particular, because you know, I mean, it's, well, let's see, it's 5:48 p.m. on a Monday. So by now, if you haven't had at least 30 dirty thoughts today, Molly, well, now I'm giving you some fodder for that. No, the one thing that I do on a daily basis is I do this a morning journal. And I've talked about it before, but I wanted to talk about it in a broader context in this podcast episode, because there's an evolution of this journal, and there's an evolution that has occurred. And I think that I'm at an optimal place with it, to where I'm getting not just a lot of mileage from it, but so many things in my life, from operating this law firm to achieving personal goals to just being generally a much happier person, that have come out of this, that I couldn't really even say I've gotten a lot of mileage out of it, although that's true. But more accurately, it's that it has really allowed me to have the freedoms in my life that I value the most. Freedoms of relationship and time and purpose and money too. And I didn't make those up. I got those from Dan Sullivan, who wrote that those are the free, and I'm probably missing at least one more freedom there, but at least those freedoms are the ones that I can remember that help me really know that I'm on the right track. So I define my evolution as a business person, and really as a grown-up, as a human, certainly as an entrepreneur, though, in terms of those freedoms. How free am I in the choices that I make in those areas? And this tool that I'm going to tell you about has been a huge driver for me in attaining those freedoms, right? So the thing about it is, I think that there's another saying, and I can't remember where I heard it. It might have been on Tim Ferriss's podcast, from a guest that he had on there, who said that you are defined by the small things that you do every single day, not by the big things that you do once in a while. And I think that's a commentary just on habits in general. So here's this one thing that I do every single day, and that I have evolved into this process that has given me these freedoms. So for me, the process starts with this much broader question, and that is, what are my lifetime goals? What do I want to accomplish before I die? And I do that probably, I don't know, I probably do that once a year. And I really think deeply about, well, certainly those 4 freedoms, but about, in general, what's the kind of person that I want to be? And I usually, when I think about those, I think about them, again, in terms of those freedoms, but also in terms of the really important aspects of my life, like business and family and purpose and friends. But in general, right? So what are the lifetime goals that I have for myself? And I've got 5 for myself. And in general, they involve things like world travel and writing books and having really close, loving relationships with my kids and growing my business. And I try to make them measurable. I try to define those lifetime goals according to that acronym SMART that a lot of people use, right? So SMART, I think a SMART goal means specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timed. So I put that into 5 or 6 lifetime goals. And I did that once a few years ago, and they haven't really changed for me. But then what I do is I break them down into 3-year goals. So then I've got my 5 or 6 lifetime goals, and then I have a separate, and I do this all, by the way, I do this in Evernote. For me, I don't know I think OneNote does similar things, but it's like this cloud-based notebook. I've heard Evernote referred to as a second brain. It's definitely a second brain for me. I've got over 1,000 notes in Evernote, and it just ends up being this well-organized repository for random thoughts that I have, and also for important like things like meeting notes and strategic plans and things like that. Anyway, so in Evernote, I've got this one note that houses these goals. So then I've got my lifetime goals, then I've got my 3-year goals, which are really a distillation. I don't know if that's the right word, actually. It's a breaking down of the lifetime goals into more specific 3-year goals. And I have 5 or 6 3-year goals that correspond to the 5 or 6 lifetime goals. So for example, if one of my lifetime goals is to live for at least a month on all 7 continents, then my 3-year goal might be to live for at least a month on 2 continents. So yeah, so you see it's a breaking down of those lifetime goals. And that too, I've given a ton of thought to. And I've mapped out those lifetime goals so that there is a logical relationship between the 3-year and the lifetime goal. And I try to make those 3-year goals also faithful to the SMART acronym. So, all right. So then you got your 3-year goals, and guess what comes next is your 1-year goal. So same process. And I bet you the whole lifetime goal, 3-year goal, 1-year goal, if you do that once a year and you spend maybe an hour or 2 on it, you can get some magic there, right? I mean, it's a very emotional process for me because it really allows, at least me, to think long and hard about what it means to be happy and how you would consider yourself to have lived a life well lived, which is an important concept for me. So, all right. So now I got lifetime goals, 3-year goals, 5 or 6 1-year goals that correspond to the 3-year and the lifetime goals. So then I have quarterly goals, and then I have monthly goals. Now, some people might think that that's pretty OCD right there. And I'll let you decide whether that is or isn't OCD. It probably is. But what it does for me is it really makes that daily journal that I'm about to talk about, that I started telling you about 14 minutes ago, really easy. Because the easiest thing after all of this, after it's all said and done, is to wake up every morning with your daily journal that asks you the same questions each day and have those goals for the day tie out to your monthly goals, your quarterly goals, your 1-year, 3-year, and lifetime goals. It's all part of this roadmap that you think about in terms of time segments, and which then whatever time segment you need to help you plan, whether it's that day or the week or the month, you see the whole big picture of it and you understand the why of it, which is absolutely critical to sustain the emotional connection that certainly I need to more easily accomplish my goals. You see that whole big picture there, and it works. It works. Well, here, I'll come back to, I'll prove to you that it works. But let me give you the rest of the mechanics first after I sip on this tasty water. So, after you go through that exercise of setting your lifetime 3-year, 1-year, quarterly, monthly goals, obviously your monthly goals you're going to do once a month. Your quarterly goals, those you should do with your 1-year goals, because it's really easy and intuitive to look at your 1-year goal and break it down into 4 benchmarks. And similarly, when you look at a 3-year goal and then you unwind it into 3 one-year goals, that's also pretty intuitive and logical. And so now I'm spending some time each year creating both 1-year and quarterly goals, and then each quarter unwinding those quarterly goals into 3 one-month goals. So now here's a super, super, super important part, folks. If you really only do one thing, this should be the one thing. Even if you don't do any of the lifetime or the 3-year or any of that other stuff, do this. I really encourage people to look at the week ahead as a complete week, as a time segment. You see the many demands on your time floating out there, and being able to spread them out and plug them into the right parts of your week is really productive, particularly if you use these other hacks like chunking your time, right? Like into, phone call hour, or meetings with clients hour, or hours, or you can do it also in projects, which I'm a big fan of, right? Chunking into, in my case, right, I have like chunks of time that I dedicate to firm management, managing my law firm, in terms of personnel and logistics and mechanics. And then I have like a marketing section. And then I have a client section where I'm just working on client matters. Creating chunks of time like that really leverages your energy level. And I believe strongly that if you are able to continue deep work when it can be deep work, I think, Cal Newport wrote that book, Deep Work. This is true, right? If you can isolate yourself for an hour at a time so that you can do the work that requires deep work, deep analysis, deep writing, that requires chunking of time. So being able to look at the week ahead so that you can strategically plan those chunks, really important. Anyway, that weekly planner, which is fed from your monthly goal or your quarterly goals, but really your monthly goal, is really important. So here's what my weekly planner looks like. I like it. I'm really proud of it, actually. And I learned most about this weekly planner from Dan Sullivan, from Strategic Coach, and I just honestly, I can't speak strongly enough about. Also, Gary Klaben is my coach in Strategic Coach. And Gary Klaben is a dude that I interviewed in this podcast. Boy, I bet you it was like 20 interviews ago. Go to thebest.podcastever.com and look up Gary Klaben and listen to that, and you'll learn all about Strategic Coach. But if you're a business owner, you need a coach. I'm going to tell you that right now. And you don't have to use Strategic Coach. You should talk to me and I'll help you find a good coach. But you should have a coach, because no matter what, you're going to do a lot of failing. That's part of running a business. Every business owner knows it. Everyone who's started a business and been in business for any significant period of time, I can tell you to a man or woman, will look you in the eye and say, I failed a lot along the way. If they're honest with you, they will tell you that they have done a whole lot of failing, and that that's part of the fabric of growing a business. Having a coach cuts the recovery time down. Having a good coach cuts the recovery time down, and it cuts the frequency and the gravity of the failure down. And that's definitely been my experience. And so I found Strategic Coach after doing a ton of research into coaching programs. And I looked at a lot of them, and I interviewed a bunch of members and mentees of lots of different coaching programs. And that's the one I settled on. And it's probably the best dollar I've spent year after year. It ain't cheap, but it's worth it. But whether you go with Strategic Coach or not, find yourself a coach. Do yourself a favor, really. A lot of the things that make us good entrepreneurs, good business owners, being decisive and listening to our intuition also sometimes make us bad students, because a lot of us have huge egos and we don't like listening to other people tell us how to run our business. That's exactly why you need a coach right there. Anyway, a lot of this process of goal setting and breaking down the lifetime goals into smaller increments, I picked up at Coach. And the weekly planner, which is one of the most important forms of planning that I use and that feeds into the daily journal. I got all of this from Coach. And so I'm going to tell you what the elements of it are, and I encourage you to use it. And I encourage you, and I invite you, and I ask you to tell me about your experience with it. And you could do that. I think that Nellie has set up our website to take comments, but you can also leave comments in the Facebook page. I'd love to hear your stories about what works and what doesn't work, and what you've never tried and what you have tried in terms of planning journals. But anyway, so this one I use every week. I usually do it every Sunday, but sometimes I do it on Monday morning. And this is how I plan my week. So the first section of my weekly planner, of the Strategic Coach Weekly Planner, is a positive focus section. And that's where you put in just your wins. WINS, your wins, not your wins, your wins. Because it gets you in the right frame of mind to do the rest of your planner. And that is so important. I mean, you can just go right into it. You can just go right into what's important. And here's the things that I'm going to do this week to accomplish what's important. You could do it. I wouldn't do it. I've tried it. This is the better way. I go through my last week's calendar in Outlook. I use Outlook still because I'm a schmuck and I haven't figured out how to use Gmail for everything like the rest of the world. Although Office 365 seems to be picking up a lot of traction, has been. Anyway, I'm digressing, as I am wont to do. I take my weekly planner, and the first thing I do is I just do a stream of consciousness download of wins from the prior week, which, by the way, I get from my daily journal, which we'll talk about in a second. But 5 to 10 solid wins, clients that I landed, trials that we've won, judgments that we've obtained, settlements that we've obtained, employees that we've hired, employees that we've fired, anything that has given us a lot of energy and a lot of positivity. And especially if it's something that has allowed you to cross a goal off your list, that's an automatic win. I will tell you that if you do this with an OCD level of attention to detail, and I mean, so yesterday I did one and there's like 15 wins in it, and which I pulled right from my calendar. Man, you can't help but get into a good mood. You can't help but feel resourceful and feel powerful and feel energetic. And that's exactly how you want to feel when you plan your week. All right. So I do that first. And then I have a question. And the question is, what are 3 crucial goals you'd like to apply focus and attention on so you're really happy with next quarter's progress? So these are quarter level attention and focus topics. But they're not goals. They're just concepts. Okay? So there's that one. And actually, I have to be honest with you, I don't know that that's in the Strategic Coach Weekly Planner. I think I might have snuck that one in. But that's in there for me. And then I have, what am I trying to accomplish with my goals? And I have a reminder. Oh, here's my 5 freedoms right here. I'm sorry, folks. You know what I should make as a goal is to have more cogent and concise podcasts, because I'm all over the place. I should put that in as a goal. The 5 freedoms are time, money, relationships, health, and purpose. Time, money, relationships, health, and purpose. Those are the 5 freedoms. Those are from Dan Sullivan, and I put them in here into this weekly planner to remind me of what on a broad macro level I'm trying to accomplish in any of my goal setting exercises. So I put those in there, and then there's a why section. Why am I trying to accomplish those 5 freedoms? And what I put in there is happiness, peace of mind, and energy, which is going to be different for everyone, but that's what I put in there. And I think it's important to know what you're trying to accomplish and why. And so that's what, for me, putting in the 5 freedoms and then the why those 5 freedoms are important to me. I put them in there because I think it's important to know them when you go into your goals. So then the next section, so the sections so far are your positive focus, 3 crucial goals you want to turn your attention to, your purpose, your importance or why, and then I have my lifetime goals, my 3-year goals, and my 1-year goals, and my quarterly goals. Now, I skipped over the monthly goals. I just go straight from quarterly to weekly. So I guess my OCD isn't like Olympic gold medal winning OCD. It's more like a silver medal OCD. But going from quarterly to weekly is good. But I don't know. This is pretty Olympic level OCD. So for my 3-year goals, I put a date next to it. So in this case, it's November 9th, 2021, because it was November 9th, 2018, a few months ago, when I created these particular 3-year goals. And then I just started doing this. I put the number, if you Google the words date calc, date, and then CALC for date calculator, it spits you onto this page where if you put in a date, it will tell you how many years from now it is, and months from now, and days from now, even minutes from now. So I actually know that November 9th, 2021 is 2 years, 8 months, and 22 days from now, or 995 days from now, or 142 weeks and 1 day from now. That's pretty Olympic gold medal winning OCD right there, folks. I just started doing that. I don't know if I'm going to get any mileage out of it. But anyway, I put that in my weekly planner. So lifetime goals are here, 3-year goals are here, 1-year goals are here. And the thing is, when I'm doing my weekly planner, I'm going through it sequentially so that I know what to plan out for my week. So from my 1-year goal, I got my quarterly goals, and those then create what I'm trying to accomplish this week. And so there's crucial results there. So I have 3 absolutely critical. If I only get 3 things done this week, those are the 3 things I'm going to get done. And those feed into those quarterly goals. And then I have all the other things I want to accomplish that week. And I bullet point list them. And then the last thing I do, and this is super, 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 super important, is I put them into my calendar. I actually block out time. It's another Tim Ferriss quote. I think it's what gets scheduled gets done. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist, or something like that. That's definitely true for me. If I put it in my calendar, especially for the day, it's getting done. If it's in my head or in some list that I'm not going to look at throughout the day, like I look at my calendar, it ain't getting done. So the most important things about that weekly planner are the positive focus, your lifetime, 3-year, 1-year, and quarterly goals. Okay. And I think it will help if you put in the why in there, as I have, but maybe you're not a why kind of person. I don't know. I'm a why kind of person, so I put my why in there. But having this trickle down, this waterfall of the tasks that you need to accomplish in your week flowing from your quarterly, 1-year, 3-year, and lifetime goals, man, I'm telling you, there's power there. There's leverage there. So that's another thing I picked up from Tim Ferriss. Man, I love that dude. If you guys, you know what, do yourselves a favor. check out his book called Tools of Titans. It's big, fat, like 700, 800 pages worth of densely populated material straight from the mouths of the people that he's interviewed and some that he hasn't. Man, that's a great book. It took me a while to get through it. I highlighted the things in there that I want to keep coming back to, and then I put them into another Evernote and I look back at them, and I just think that there is so much power in there. I'm pretty sure that this process that I'm describing to you is in there somewhere. But one thing that I've gotten out of there is this thing that he does once a year where he looks back. Yeah, so he's talking about his New Year's resolutions and how he doesn't have them and how he thinks they're stupid, which is an idea that I share, but for different reasons. I think they're stupid because I think that it's a totally arbitrary time of year to have resolutions, and you might as well have birthday resolutions or 4th of July resolutions or monthly or quarterly or yearly resolutions. But what he does instead of that is he looks back at the year prior and he lists key events that have created emotional reactions for him, people he's met, things that he's done, and he identifies he does an 80-20 analysis, a Pareto principle analysis, where he identifies the 20% of the people, activities, or events that produce 80% of his peak emotions and results. And he highlights those. And then conversely, he identifies the 20% of the people, activities, or events that produce 80% of his most negative emotions and results. And he highlights those. And he basically then resolves that over the course of the next year, he's going to do a lot more of the positive things and a lot less of the negative things, including eliminating the negative things from his life entirely. I definitely do that. And I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that. And so my list of those 80-20 things. So really I have at the bottom of my weekly planner to remind me of what I want to gravitate towards and then move away from are the list of the 5 things that represent the 20% of the people, activities, or events that produce 80% of my peak emotions or results. Because I want more of that stuff. And then I also have the 5 or 6, it was actually like 9 things that have produced most of the poorest and weakest and least effective emotions and results, so that I can try to cross those things off my list. So I put those in my weekly planner too. And that's just bonus points. That's good stuff though. That's helpful to me. All right. So now I've just told you about how I set my goals and about how I do my weekly planner. And so once you know what you want to accomplish that week, your daily journal writes itself almost. And it takes 5 minutes every morning. This is what I've been doing every single morning. I bet you I've been doing it for like 10 years. Now, I've only been in Strategic Coach for 3 years. So that weekly planner format that I pulled from Coach, I did it in totally different forms with somewhat similar questions and templates and fields. The current form that I described to you, I got largely from Coach, but there's been a weekly planner process in my weeks forever. Well, for like probably 10 years. And then the journal, also borrowing from Tim Ferriss, who has a 5-minute journal. The 5-minute journal is this daily habit that I have and that I've been faithful to forever. And I love it. And when it is fed through that waterfall process that starts at your lifetime goals and goes right down into what I'm going to do today, that is some powerful shit. That's just really powerful shit. All right, so here's what I do. So I've got an Evernote note, and it says 5MJ, 5-minute journal. So my 5-minute journal, in the note that I write it in, the bottom is the template, which I then copy paste into the top of it so that it's this rolling scroll of daily 5-minute journals. And this is an amalgamation. Boy, I think I'm using that word correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. Of concepts that I've picked up from Ferriss and from Coach and from Tony Robbins, right? So Tony Robbins has this concept of creating the sequence of state, story, strategy, right? First, get yourself into the right state of mind, then get the story in your mind going, what things mean, how you can create the right story for yourself so that it gives you the best output. Boy, that's a whole nother podcast. There's things that I like about Tony Robbins, and there's things that I think are crazy about that guy that are almost like cult-like. But the state, story, strategy, get yourself, that makes a lot of sense to me. And that is the underpinning to this daily journal and kind of the weekly journal too, with the positive focus up front. Get yourself in the right state of mind first, then create your story, create the meanings that you're going to go through your day with, and then create your strategy, which is how am I going to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish, right? So the state part in the daily journal is 4 things for which I'm grateful. And then writing them down, but then also thinking about them and feeling them and internalizing them on an emotional level. And the 4, and again, this is some serious detail, OCD shit that you may or may not need. Again, a shout out to Tim Ferriss for coming up with this framework, which I don't even think he came up with, but I'm stealing it. It's a relationship that you're grateful for. It's an opportunity that you have today that you're grateful for. It's something that happened yesterday that you're grateful for. And then it's a simple thing that's near me and within sight that I'm grateful for. All right. Relationship, opportunity, yesterday, and a simple thing that's in front of you. The reason I like that is because it has both a present moment and a non-present moment concept. Like you're thinking about yesterday, you're thinking about the future, but then you have to also think about what's happening right now. Being grateful, putting yourself into a grateful state, that's the way you want to start your journal. Then the next part of the journal is affirmations. I'm not going to tell you what mine are, but I will tell you that they are really powerful for me. So like, I think people have different words for the same thing. Some people pray, some people meditate, some people do both and also have affirmations. But I really believe in the power of telling yourself what you expect of yourself, but doing it in a way that assumes that you are that thing. Saying it in present tense. I am this. I see this. I see, hear, feel, and know this. I am this. You close your eyes, and if you know it by heart, which I do, and which you will after a while, and then you say it, and then you feel it, and some people I think would encourage you to say it out loud. I like putting headphones in and listening to, like I've got an affirmations playlist in Spotify, which surprisingly has a number of soundtracks in it. But like having good, loud, inspirational music while you are repeating these affirmations. I mean, I don't know, you can call me goofy. You probably will. People either get it or they don't. People who use affirmations and have used them for a long time, repeat them throughout the day. They get a lot of mileage out of them. I believe in it. It is something that works really well for me. So that's the next section. There's the gratitude section. There's the affirmations section. I have a section. So a lot. Here's just, again, more bells and whistles here, right? So I put in a field for a lesson I learned recently. Kind of teaches me to be humble. Reminds me that I'm a perpetual student and not a master of anything. And it, just by virtue of typing in and then rereading the lesson, you learn your lesson better. So I put that in here. I've got a field for what my unique ability is, something that I believe I do better than everyone else or than most people that I know. And that stays the same. It's the same line. That's another concept from Coach. We spent a day in Coach framing and articulating our unique ability. So I put that in here to remind myself of what I need to do as much as possible and delegate away everything else. So then is my prompt to go to my weekly planner. So I wrote, it's in here. It says, go to your weekly planner. And then I have a quote from Stephen Covey here. Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least. So that reminds me to prioritize the things that have to get done today over the things that I can push to a different day. I then just pull stuff out of my weekly planner and I start with those 3 crucial results. I put them front and center and I list the other things from my weekly planner that I could conceivably get done that day. And hopefully they were in my calendar that I put in from that week when I did the weekly planner. Hopefully they're in there already. But if I've got my calendar there and it isn't jam-packed with key results that need to be accomplished that day, this is where that comes from, is this daily journal. And then the last thing I do is I calendar those things if they're not already calendared. So that's it, man. That's how I do it. And if you've listened this far and you're still here, then you're either bored, unable to find anything better to listen to, or you're my mom, or Molly, maybe. Molly, are you still listening? That'd be crazy. It'd be crazy if you're still listening, Molly, but I appreciate it. No, but the other thing about it, though, is if you're listening this far, and you're listening to this far because you think this might be helpful to you, here's what I'll tell you. And I'm not saying this to brag at all, okay? I'm saying this because there is a direct line, a laser straight line from this process that I just described for you to the facts that I am sitting here today in my conference room of a law firm that I own and operate that has 13 people working in it and that has going on 1,000 clients in it, and that I started 6 years ago, only 6 years ago. And the fact that a month ago I was in Argentina for a month living and working because that was one of my 3-year goals, and being able to create a business that is relatively self-managed that will allow me to extract myself from it and still run it from Argentina. I mean, not to mention like the other sort of, I mean, there's a lot of meaningful things that I think that I've accomplished in that time. And then just a lot of like kind of somewhat silly things like buying a Harley, right? Being in a boat club. I mean, those are things that used to be on that list of goals. I've always wanted to own a Harley. I used to have a Suzuki Intruder, and I always wanted to ride a Harley, even when I had that Intruder. And I just knew that one day I needed to have a Harley. Okay, I thought about it. I dreamed about it. I got jealous whenever I pulled my Suzuki Intruder up to a Harley and it was louder than mine. I mean, it's stupid. I know, but it was important to me. And now when I go on these like day-long Harley trips with my girlfriend to, wherever, to Geneva or anywhere. I mean, it's because of this thing. It's because of this process. So many things that I'm just incredibly grateful for that maybe I would have gotten, maybe I would have accomplished them, but not in the time frame that I did. It came from the leverage that you get by having a good system. And this is a good system. So it works. And I really encourage people to try it. And don't just use if you're going to do it, right? You don't have to use the format that I described. You don't have to use the same fields. I think the big takeaway that I would ask you to have when you stop listening to this, if you keep listening, is create a structure that you are doing and processing every single day and every single period of time beyond a day that goes from your goals to what you're going to do that day. And if you do it consistently, it will happen. And there's going to be those failures. You're going to have failures, especially if you're a business owner. But even if you're not, you know this. I'm not talking to a 2-year-old here. I mean, we all fail at stuff, right? And there's a whole nother podcast that we can have and probably will have on failing and how to fail correctly. And that's something that took me a lot of failing to get to. And I still don't think I fail correctly, but I do fail, and I fail a lot. But this system allows you to get through that failure in a much more positive way. Just like having a good coach will help you get through that failure in a much more positive way. But make no mistake, there will be failure. Another really great thing about this is by doing it on a daily basis, you're creating a good record. So those wins that you put in on a weekly basis, and by the way, I do that ubiquitously. We start our staff meetings with wins. When I do my quarterly goals, I start with wins. That's that Tony Robbins concept of state, story, strategy. Start with your state. By the way, the affirmations are the story, for me anyway. Saying what you are. I know I'm jumping around. This is more like Molly's here now. Saying what you are in a positive way is the story that you want to be telling yourself throughout the day, and you want it to be in your subconscious. So you get it out there into the universe, and you get it out there into your subconscious through your affirmations. Anyway, state, story, strategy is the way to get through your goals and through your quarters, your months, your weeks, your days. One last thing that I'll mention. So there's also an end of day journal. So for those of you that want crazy bonus points, right? I mean, I was about to say, don't do this until you get the other stuff locked in, but if you're going to do it, just do it. Your end of day questions are, and I do these, I don't do these as faithfully as the daily morning journal, as the 5-minute morning journal, but man, when I do it, I feel it, and I feel it the next day. Those are, what am I grateful for? What were my 3 wins from today? What are my 3 wins for tomorrow? What did not work today? And how was that a gift? And then the last one is, what's a problem I'm trying to solve? And there's magic in that last one, people. You write down before you go to bed a problem that you're trying to solve. Close that journal up, close that notebook up, turn off your computer, and go to bed. And I'm telling you right now, there is going to be some number of you that will wake up the next morning with the answer to that problem. I do all the time. Now, I guess I don't know that I wouldn't if I hadn't asked that question, but I think there's a lot of science behind it, and I believe it, and it works. It works for me. So hopefully this helped you. I was debating whether to talk about this. I mean, it's a deeply personal thing, obviously, and there's unquestionably going to be some number of people that think that this is just the most ridiculous thing in the world, or that everybody does some form of it. So why are we talking about it? I don't think everyone does some form of it. I think most people don't do any form of it. I think that most people don't set goals in a strategic way. I think most people go through life having set goals for themselves at one time and then put them on the shelf and forgot about them. I really believe that. I think that when you're systematic about your goals and you're strategic about them, you're more likely to accomplish them. So if there's one thing that my people hear me say on a regular basis to them, and if you're one of the folks that I've had coffee with or lunch with or had a drink with, and we've talked for any period of time, then one thing that you'll hear me say is that I want my group and my people, my organization, to be more than what people think it is. We're more than just lawyers. There's 10,000 lawyers out there that anybody can choose to retain for their legal matter. There's thousands of law firms out there. If you're going to succeed in the organization that you're creating, you have to create value for people beyond just the thing that they've hired you to do. That's how the experience is created that has people coming back and has people telling their friends. Sure, it's the results. They hire you for a result that they want you to accomplish. But if you can deliver the results plus a way to improve their lives, an introduction you can make, a message you can give, a book that you can recommend, some way to help their lives become easier or happier or more meaningful. That's the kind of organization that you want to be as a business owner. And that's the kind of organization that we try to be over here. So if you're one of my employees or someone that is a client of ours and you've listened this far, then you're just hearing something that you've heard from me already. And that's what I was hoping to create with this episode of this podcast, is something that might help your life and certainly your day, and hopefully your relationships and your purpose and your health and your goals. Those freedoms that we were talking about, those 5 freedoms. This is a way, at least for me, to get more of those. All right, folks, I've taken up an hour of your time. And if you've listened this far, I thank you. I hope I've helped you. I hope that I've at least given you something to think about. And I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful that you have stuck with me, that you've given me an hour of your time. And I can't wait to talk to you again, which will be in a week, with Molly, who is probably right this very second holding her 2 twin grandkids up against her chest and giving them big squeezes. And I will give them squeezes when I see them too. And you too, Molly. So congratulations again to you, and to you, Sam and David and John and the whole GEBLER clan. And thanks, everyone. We will see you next time.